everyone. For years, robot vacuum cleaners have promised the same thing, less work. But somehow they always seem to create more work. They get stuck under furniture, they eat your cables, they miss corners, and eventually you're cleaning the robot that's supposed to be cleaning your house. So when DJI announced the ROMO P, their very first flagship robot vacuum, I was genuinely curious. Not because it's another robot vacuum, but because DJI is a company that has spent years solving navigation, sensing, mapping, and autonomy challenges in drones. So the question is, can drone technology actually solve the biggest frustrations people have with robot vacuums? Over the last few weeks, I've been testing out the DJI ROMO P around both my home and office space. And today we're going to find out whether this is just another smart home gadget or whether DJI has genuinely changed the game. Before we get into the tests, let's talk about the biggest problem with robot vacuums today. Most robot vacuums are trying to balance three things. First, cleaning performance. Second, cleaning coverage. And thirdly, how hassle-free they are to own and maintain. Usually, when one gets better, another gets worse. If a robot is extremely careful about obstacle avoidance, it often misses dirt and leaves areas untouched. If it has aggressive cleaning performance, maintenance becomes a nightmare. And if it focuses on maximum coverage, it can end up getting stuck all the time. DJI calls this the golden triangle. And honestly, I think they've identified the problem better than most brands. Because what people actually want isn't the most powerful robot vacuum. What they want is a robot vacuum they don't have to think about. Now let's talk about first impressions. The transparent design immediately stands out. Most robot vacuums are designed to disappear into the background. The ROMO P almost feels like it wants to be displayed. You can actually see the engineering, you can see the mechanical systems working, and it feels much closer to a premium piece of technology than a household appliance. The dock itself has the same transparent design language, and in a modern home or office environment, it genuinely looks like a part of the space rather than something you're trying to hide. But of course, none of that matters if it doesn't clean well. So let's start with obstacle avoidance. This is probably the feature I was most interested in testing. Because DJI's expertise in navigation is exactly what made me curious about this product in the first place. So I created a worst-case scenario: loose cables, Lego pieces, and small objects scattered across the floor, desk setups, basically all the things that most robot vacuums get confused with. The results were honestly so impressive. The ROMO P uses a combination of fisheye vision sensors and solid-state LiDAR technology derived from DJI's experience in autonomous navigation. What that means in practice is that it understands the environment surprisingly well. Instead of bumping into objects and figuring things out afterwards, it recognizes and reacts before it gets into trouble. Even when navigating around loose charging cables, which are usually one of the biggest enemies of robot vacuums, the ROMO P consistently avoided them. I also tested it in low light conditions, including under sofas and furniture where visibility is limited. And it continued navigating confidently without getting stuck. I never had to rescue it, and honestly that might be the highest compliment I can give a robot vacuum. Normally when robot vacuums encounter larger debris, the side brushes can end up scattering everything around before it gets picked up. The ROMO P intelligently adjusts its side brush's speed when it detects larger particles. So instead of creating a bigger mess, it collects debris much more efficiently. In most of my tests, everything was removed in a single pass. And even with larger particles, the cleaning performance felt very controlled and deliberate. Okay, so let's talk about coverage now. Because this is another area where most robot vacuums struggle. The corners, edges, chair legs, cabinets, all of these irregular shapes create blind spots and often get missed. The interesting thing about the ROMO P is that it physically changes its shape while cleaning. The side brush extends outward, the mop extends outward, and that allows it to stay in contact with edges and furniture much more efficiently. Watching it navigate around chair legs and furniture is actually pretty fascinating. It feels less like a traditional robot vacuum and more like a machine actively adapting to its environment. And when you compare the results along walls, corners, the difference is immediately noticeable. Now, let's move into one of the messier tests, the wet cleaning. Because this is where robot vacuums often create a new problem while trying to solve the original one. I tested spills, partially dried stains, and greasy kitchen messes. And this is where DJI's cleaning strategy starts to make a lot of sense. Instead of simply dragging a dirty mop around the house, the ROMO P actively manages the condition of the mop pads. It can automatically apply cleaning solution when needed, and when it encounters more demanding situations like grease, it adjusts its cleaning behavior accordingly. After cleaning, it returns to the base station where the mop pads are thoroughly washed, which brings us to the most underrated feature of the entire system, the base station. Because let's be honest, most robot vacuum maintenance happens here. The dirty trays, the hair buildups, bad smells, and the stuff that nobody talks about in marketing videos. DJI has designed a self-cleaning system that uses high-pressure water jets and automatic waste extraction to keep the system clean. The entire process feels surprisingly sophisticated. Watching the station flush itself actually is kind of satisfying. Most importantly, it dramatically reduces the amount of manual maintenance required. DJI claims up to 200 days of maintenance-free operation. Obviously, that's going to depend on your environment and usage habits, but after seeing how aggressively the station cleans itself, I can understand where the confidence comes from. One thing I also want to briefly mention is the camera and microphone system. Features like advanced obstacle recognition, remote monitoring, and video functionality are available, but importantly, they are not enabled by default. You need to explicitly authorize them through the app. And if you don't want these features, you can simply leave them disabled. I appreciate that DJI gives the users control over those privacy decisions rather than assuming that everyone wants them active. So after living with the ROMO P for a while, what's the verdict? Honestly, what impressed me the most wasn't a single feature, it was the overall experience. Every robot vacuum claims to clean floors, but the real challenge is creating something that requires less effort from the owner. And that's where the ROMO P feels different. The obstacle avoidance reduces interruptions, the coverage improves consistently, the self-cleaning station reduces maintenance, and together all those small things and small improvements create something that feels genuinely more autonomous. This feels less like DJI entered the robot vacuum market and more like DJI looked into the biggest problem of the category and then approached it with an engineering challenge.